the Denver Broncos might be moving on from a former Pro Bowl player, an absolute fan favorite, one of my favorite to ever don the orange and blue. Let's dive in. If you're new to this channel, my name is Ben. I break down all things Denver sports. It really helps me out if you would subscribe. So we now have talked over the past couple of videos about big moves that need to happen in this offseason. We talked about free agents that are on the market and rumored to come to Denver, which carry a high price tag, and we know that we are already over the cap. And so one of the things that needs to happen is we need to get under the cap by renegotiating some contracts, trading away some players. And this is not the guy I would have chosen, but this seems like it certainly could happen, that the Denver Broncos could move away from the guy who wore number 14, Courtland Sutton. Did he wear it better than Brandon Stokely? I'll leave that up to y'all. But Courtland Sutton had a big Instagram post that was shared all over the place, tons of comments on it. And in that Instagram post, very notably, he is with Russell Wilson in all the pictures, not any of the other 10 quarterbacks he's run routes for over the past 16 years. But just, I don't want to read everything for you, but one of the big things is I trust my God's plans over everything, including whatever is next for me. Just know I gave my everything to this team and this organization every time I stepped on that field. So that definitely has the vibes of like a sad post, a goodbye post. If you had a friend who wrote a post like that, you might go do a wellness check on them, right? And you just even see the vibe and the tone of the pictures that he chose to include in there. To me, that seems like a goodbye post, and that's sad, but that is the NFL for sure, that he played incredible. So looking at how I feel about this, truly, Courtland Sutton was the 20th highest paid receiver in the entire NFL. And if you look at the results and the output that he had, despite now having really that offense clicking, he's 2 years off of that ACL injury. I think this was pretty close to the ceiling that we'll see from Courtland Sutton. I remember his first and second year, you're like, dude, this guy is Brandon Marshall 2.0, and Brandon Marshall without all the drama, and like it felt really, really good. And then he had that ACL tear. Last year, we know ACL injuries are a 2-year injury, and so last year I don't think we can count against him. This year truly is, I think, the ceiling for him with Russell Wilson. And we looked at that, although he's the 20th highest paid receiver in the league, he didn't make the Pro Bowl. He didn't make the Pro Bowl as an alternate. And we know with all the alternates on there that it almost seems like everyone and their mom gets in. He didn't make an all-pro team, despite being the 20th highest paid receiver. And his output, he was the 44th highest receiver per receptions. So you just look, he wasn't even, we pay him like a wideout 1, and he was playing like a wideout 2 with how he had the quarterback talent that he had. So very sad, because I love the dude to death, but I also understand that he was not performing at his contract. And so if you are to move on from a player, he makes sense. So if we take a look at the Broncos salary cap, we know that we're over the salary cap, and different options we have, that if we come down here to Courtland Sutton and he is traded before, we're 30 over according to this right here. If we hit submit on there, we now that isn't shown. So we were 30 over. Just trading him, if we can pick up a second, which is what we picked him at out of SMU, or could we pick up a third or a 4th round pick? We know how much George Payton loves his picks. So just trading him, we drop from 30 over the cap to 16. So right there, that's a huge chunk. And you could then replace him with a Danielle Hunter or with a Josh Allen, the defensive end linebacker kind of guy. So sad, but I also think it's smart that if we're trying to build for the future, most likely there is a new quarterback or a new offense in Denver next year. Certainly Russell still might be back as under a renegotiated deal, but over 6 years, we just see, I think one of the arguments for why getting rid of him would be okay is that he was on this team when we won games 9-7 and didn't sniff the end zone. He has been a part of some pretty pitiful offenses. And I think there are certainly wide receivers out there like a Jamar Chase, like a Justin Jefferson, who are quarterback, like a Tyreek Hill, where I don't think Tua is a great, talented thrower of the ball, yet Tua, because of Tyreek Hill, looks like a all-pro player, even like a Diggs. Like, I think there are receivers out there who are quarterback proof, and Courtland Sutton looked like that. I think he maybe would have been that before the injury, but I don't know if he is now. So I think the lead candidate to replace him, and why you might say replacing him is okay, is that we got this guy out of Texas, Lil Jordan Humphrey, who on paper, and if you saw them standing next to each other with helmets on, you might not even be able to tell the difference. They're pretty much the exact same height, exact same wingspan. At this point in their career, I think they're the exact same speed, is Lil Jordan Humphrey. Now, the difference is Courtland Sutton had some of the sickest catches I've ever seen in my life. Like, his hands on those crazy catches were insane, yet you also saw this year the easy catches, especially with Stidham this year. I saw a bunch of balls bounce off his hands, and he had some of the coolest catches we've ever seen, yet those catches that you gotta have, he missed. So I think that is kind of a wash in that way. But if you look at Lil Jordan Humphrey coming out of the combine versus Courtland Sutton coming out of the combine at SMU and Texas, you just see very similar height, weight, all of that kind of stuff. Courtland Sutton was definitely a notch faster, running a 4.5 40 versus a 4.7 40 with Lil Jordan Humphreys. But again, we haven't seen that top end quickness out of Courtland Sutton since the injury. He is amazing on the deep ball. He's amazing when a play breaks down. And I think what we've seen from Sean Payton is that Courtland Sutton was a perfect receiver for Russell Wilson. If Russell Wilson isn't our quarterback, we need a different type of receiver, a quicker receiver, a better pure route runner. And it's funny that although Courtland Sutton was the best receiver on this team, way better than Jerry Jeudy, you could see a world where Sean Payton actually prefers Jerry Jeudy to what he has in Courtland Sutton. So very, very interesting. I threw a poll up on my channel, and I love seeing y'all weigh in on those polls. And the poll was, who do you think is the best team that the Broncos beat this year who is in the playoffs? So it's kind of crazy to me that here we are diving into the playoffs. I truly believe this is the last year the Denver Broncos are not in the playoffs. It feels like forever since we've been able to say that, but it's crazy to me to see that most of our wins this year were against playoff teams or teams who should have been in the playoffs. So you look, we had a great win against the Minnesota Vikings. They were in playoff contention and were the hottest team in the NFL when we beat them. Then they had injury concerns and just couldn't find that quarterback. And so, but when we beat them, they had the Pastronaut and were undefeated with him, and he was kind of had that Tebow energy with him. So we won 2 garbage games against the Chargers, who certainly didn't sniff the playoffs, but you look at the rest of our wins and they're all against playoff caliber teams. And so my question was, which of the teams that we beat this year do you think has the chance of going the furthest? So we beat the Browns. They're playing Houston today. That's going to be a great game. And the other crazy part about that is we were 4th and goal from the 6-yard line against Houston, and we would have beat them. So it's like, man, if we had done that, we would have beat a team who was in the second round of the playoffs, which is nuts. We beat the Kansas City Chiefs once, and then the other time barely lost to them at a scheduled loss on a Thursday night. Got smoked by the Dolphins. That'll be a crazy game, below 0 temperatures forecasted. Reminds me of that playoff game with Manning and the Ravens a couple of years ago. That was just a heartbreaker. Then we look here, Pittsburgh, Buffalo. Buffalo should win without TJ Watt, and we beat the Buffalo Bills at home in a must-win game. We dropped their playoff chances down into the single digits, I believe. Maybe it was like 10, 15, something like that. Beating them at home on a Monday Night Football. They're probably going to be in the second round. Green Bay, Dallas, that's going to be a great game. But which of these, and I think that's, all the we got smoked by the Detroit Lions. But otherwise, which of these playoff teams can you weigh in on the comments or hop on that poll and vote? Which of these playoff teams do you think the Denver Broncos beat has the chance of making it the farthest? So thanks for being along for this ride. We are in our last year of not playing today. I guarantee you next year at this time, the Denver Broncos will be in the playoffs. You're not going to be at home just watching me. We're going to be prepping for a Broncos game. So thanks, Broncos country, and make sure you stay buckled up.